What's the toughest part about the day now?
Oh, I guess just the nerves and the build-up for the players. But I mean, they've prepared well and they've been here before, and we know how tough it's going to be in Sydney. We've got here a bit earlier than normal. Came down on Sunday, so it hasn't been as rushed, and I think they can really get their head around that start tonight, which is something we need to be a lot better at.
You had a look at the ground last night. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, the surface actually looks pretty good. I mean, I know there was a lot of rain at the weekend, but it was pretty firm underfoot. I know they've done some work to it in recent times, and it looks like a pretty fast track, so I think it'll suit both teams, and if the conditions are like they are now, it should be a great game of footy.
It's been dewy the last couple of nights, so there's a chance the ball will be slippery.
Yeah, I mean, typically it is a bit more slippery than, say, Suncorp, but and that's again part of what you need to get your head around as a football team, and they seem to enjoy, or they have a good game plan for that, and we've got to be good enough to counteract that tonight.
As you say, they've really been around, these guys. They know how to play these big games. So what do you say to them on game day?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, our performances in Sydney the last 2 years haven't been as good as they need to be, and we haven't had that pressure on us where we've had another game in Queensland to sort of get the job done. So I think we need to be a bit better tonight, certainly in game one, and not put as much pressure on ourselves later in the series if we can. But they're going to be hard to beat, and they're favourites, so that's something we've got to contend with.
What's the key to making sure you have a good start, Michael? Is there something magical about that? I mean,
no, I just think it's individual responsibility across the team, and sort of buying into what the team values need to be tonight, and work hard for one another. So I mean, they always do that traditionally, but we just know we can't get left in the blocks.
Hags, in your experience in Origin, does size matter?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess we've had that 4 front row rotation up until now, but the speed and agility of our game and the type of team New South Wales have picked in the last 12 months, we've probably had to adjust our plan a little bit, and we think we've got some really good quality on the bench to come on, and we've got blokes like Sam Thaiday, Nate Miles that can push up into the front row. They do that for their clubs, and they can play plenty of minutes. So hopefully we can handle that, and I think we've got as much speed and skill and ability as they do.
In a squad that's been so settled for so many years, how does the likes of Chris McQueen settle?
Yeah, I mean, he's been quiet, but I think he's enjoyed it, and he's been part of the emerging program in the last couple of years, so he's a little bit familiar with the staff and some of the players, and the fact that he's got Benny Teo and Greg Inglis, his South Sydney teammates in the camp. I mean, he's been able to talk to them a bit about what to expect, and Mal has spent a bit more time with him this week because he's the only debutant at this stage, and I'm sure he'll be fine, and he'll be dying to get out there and do a good job for us.
There's a bit of talk on the Gold Coast, Nate Miles being groomed as the next captain, and certainly he's one of the leaders of the side. Would you see that that's his pathway?
I mean, he's one of the really good leaders in our team, has been for a long time, and I think we're quite blessed to have a number of leaders and captains at respective clubs that are now part of that leadership group here. But I mean, he's been a huge part of our team, and he'll lead the forward pack tonight along with Matty Scott, and I'm sure he'll thrive on that occasion, as he always does.
Earlier in the week, Mal had shown some concern for Ben Teo's mental state. How do you see him right now?
I think he's in a pretty good place. I mean, Mal's spent some time with him. I think a lot of that was talked about early in the camp, but I think that's sort of quietened down a little bit in the last few days. So I think he can just focus on his role in the team and get the job done. And he might have to answer some questions about that at a later time. But from our point of view, we think he's fine and not showing any real signs that other than he wants to be out there and being part of the 17.
The first 10 or 15 minutes of Origin, there's nothing quite like it, mate. There's no shoulder charge. You're expecting it's still going to be fairly brutal, and those two get at each other.
I don't know where those shoulder charges are going to sit in tonight's game. I mean, there have been a few in recent times, in recent years, so I mean, it'd be a shame to see penalties issued where it's just a really physical start. So they might show a little bit of leniency either way, but it's a difficult one to sort of understand how they're going to rule on that.
They have in the past, but haven't they? They've been a bit lenient.
Yeah, normally, but
tactics.
I guess within the rules currently, you've got to take that into account.
Michael, how's Chris McQueen holding up? It's probably the most daunting taboo you could imagine today.
Yeah, but I guess he's coming off the bench, and he might only be required to play 20 or 30 minutes and just do his job. So hopefully he won't be overawed. And I mean, they've got 3 debutants themselves that need to handle that as well. It's always difficult. You don't really know what to expect until you get out there and how fast it is, and it all sort of goes pretty quickly between the ears. But I think he's a pretty measured sort of a young bloke, and I'm sure he'll handle it well.
Michael, you played a lot of 5'8". What do you make of Maloney he looks a bit old schoolish, and he looks like he's got plenty of tricks in his bag?
Yeah, I've known James for a little while. He was at Parramatta as a young bloke, so he's really progressed over the last 3 or 4 years, and he's just got that really good instinctive talent as a 5'8". I think he puts himself in the right place at the right time. His kicking game's pretty good, and he's an exceptional goal kicker. So, he deserves his spot, and he's got that understanding of Mitchell Pearce. So, we need to do a bit of homework on that, make sure we can try and shut him down.
Is the Origin tough?
Yeah, he's a pretty tough sort of a character, I think, and you're right. He's come through he has come through a fairly long pathway to get to first grade and now to Origin. So, he's got plenty of experience, and I'm sure he'll handle it too.
Just mentioned the kicking game, mate. They've got 4. They can get out of trouble, then, can't they?
Yeah, they can. I mean, again, that's something that Queensland's had the benefit of Cameron and Cooper and Jonathan Thurston kicking the footy, and they've got arguably, you're right, another option there in Jared Hayne as well. So, yeah, our kick reception and our pressure on their kickers, that's something that we'll need to be pretty good at, and I'm sure that's going to be a big part of their plan. And Laurie Daly, he understands that, having played in those key positions before, and I'm sure that's something that he and Ricky Stewart have rammed home in the last sort of 18 months to their team. So that'll be a big part of what they do.
Do you expect Darius to come under a fair bit of attention, given that he's had a question mark over his head? They might sort of target him, maybe see him as a bit of a weak link if they're going to target those wingers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll target our back 3, to be honest. I think Brent Tate and Darius and Billy can expect a pretty torrid time back there. I think they were very good in Game 2 last year. They put us under a lot of pressure, and I don't think tonight will be any different to that.
There's been talk about Inglis sort of playing a roving role and virtually a second fullback. Can you give us some insight there?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get into that formation for too many parts of the game. I mean, you need that balance in your team. But I mean, I guess it's just trying to get him a little bit more football and a few more opportunities if we can. So, again, it depends how the game unfolds, and we'll just play that by ear as we go along.